some of the things that we have found in this 3.5 year process is, especially in ag tech, 3.5 years ago, there were not as many players. Of course, we didn't know all the players
Yes.
that were available to us. And so whenever we applied to some of these competitions and then were introduced to this whole nother environment of ag tech and the people that were interested in it, and probably in the last 12 to 18 months, the amount of dollars that are pouring into ag tech, be it controversial tech to very innovative and revolutionizing efficiencies in production. I think it's time that we really look at it as far as a industry as a whole, because Missouri's number one industry, we talk about it all the time, is agriculture. And in order to capitalize on that, we really need to find ways that not so much the big seed rounds or venture capital, but the 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 starting point that somebody has a pretty good idea but can't get the needed funding to really test out their theory, to fund that to expand, and then we can get into some of that. I mean, we have great tools through Masvida, and we're one of those recipients of the value added grant. And that has helped us get to where we're at today. If we did not have that Masvida grant, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today. I'd still be putting my nose to the ground to find capital. But that is a great program. And I think we can build off of that to have those just nest eggs to help people get over certain hurdles in development or business plans or just introductions. I think we have some people that have kind of paved their own way or made their own path to some of those new players in ag tech that can really bring more people in and make it a easier road to where they want to get to.
Are you a part of Missouri agriculture? Do you enjoy the harvest of Missouri through food, fuel, or fiber? Interested in strengthening your community or making a difference in the lives of others? You're in the right place. This is Stand for Ag with Missouri Farmers Care. Join us for thoughtful conversations around the intersections of farmer, rancher, and consumer interests. Grab a seat, press play, and join the conversation.
Welcome back to the latest edition of Stand for Ag podcast with Missouri Farmers Care. We are midstream in our entrepreneurship series, talking about tools, stories, and successes that Missouri agriculture, farmers and ranchers and agribusinesses have seen in entrepreneurship across the state. So we're going to be talking about a new tool, relatively new tool today. And on the program with us, we have Kevin Johansen. So welcome, Kevin. I would love for you to introduce yourself, the many hats you wear, and give us a little bit of background on the development and concept that brought you to AgButler.
Well, I'm excited to be on here with you, Ashley, and share more about AgButler. We've kind of did a real big push, and we've had a huge silver lining in the last 12 months because COVID had made a lot of pivot changes for us, but also had allowed us to fast track our development in our platform. And so AgButler is a gig economy platform that has kind of evolved more into a marketplace. It's kind of like the ride sharing technologies that we all use when we travel or utilize a vacation home potentially. But basically what we're trying to do is bring more value and potential rural economic development to our rural communities, especially in Missouri, and then hopefully replicate that and expand out through the Midwest and beyond. But what we're trying to do is provide high quality experienced laborers to farmers and ranchers whenever they have increased demand for labor, be it harvest, working cattle, changing out confinement operation, flocks and herd, and so on. And so we found really speaking on podcast And thinking back 3.5 years ago, sitting in a tractor, listening to entrepreneurial podcasts really is where this whole idea came to. And being a freelancer through late high school, college, and early adulthood, kind of saw both sides, and especially now being more management, but still can be on the labor side, being able to find somebody in a short period of time without having to call 3 or 4 people or skim through your phone book contacts to see if somebody's available. And so in a nutshell, that's what we're trying to build with AgButler.
Well, we absolutely love and support it. We've talked on this podcast, we've talked with Lieutenant Governor Kehoe and others as we are Missouri agriculturists joining together on the No5 Initiative, Missouri Food, Fuel, Feed, Fiber, and Forestry Consortium. Our goal is mutually aligned. It's to bring economic development to our rural communities and across the state, and by adding value to Missouri commodities. So the best way to add value to Missouri commodities is further processing, right? We're great at the production side. We have a lot of room to grow on everything else. And the first need, as I sat in a meeting this last week with entrepreneurs from across the state in many of those different segments of the industry, their number 1, 2, and 3 was labor. And so AgButler could not be better timed to help with that, whether it be contract, part-time, full-time, or on an as-needed basis. It was labor across the board, and labor that has our very unique, sometimes very unique skill sets. It's not a novice that you necessarily are going to have helping you work cattle, because it's not going to be a help. In the forestry industry, sometimes they said we needed labor everywhere from great high value jobs running machines, or someone who can pick something up and put something down and be reliable. And so I see, as I peruse through AgButler's growing lists, a little bit of absolutely every skill set represented there. People who may currently be underemployed or have additional opportunities for more hours, offering themselves out in that skill sharing platform. So I see it as a great need at a great time.
Yeah, and it was just by coincidence. MU Extension was doing the ag workforce assessment study, and we were kind of paralleling, unbeknownst to us. And we launched our platform at the end of summer, early fall, and then workforce assessment came out, and it was kind of like, this is very coincidental, but it worked hand in hand in what we were trying to do. Another thing that, what we're trying to add value back into the rural communities, because everybody that has been a part of a family operation has always been told at a certain point in their age, why don't you find something different, because ag's not going to be able to support everybody. And so here in this last year, ag seems to be very much rejuvenated because of food, fuel, and fiber. Especially the pandemic definitely showed some of those gaps that we can fix. And the biggest thing about sending the young agriculturalist out of those rural communities, you lose a lot of generational knowledge. I brag on our oldest daughter, Harper, all the time. She's 7, and she can sort cattle better than some people that we've dealt with. And so if we just keep the revolving door of me telling my daughter whenever she's maybe a junior in high school, hey, find something else, that's wasting 18 years of training. But if you keep those people invested in those rural communities, especially their own communities, there's a lot of great knowledge that's there, and then it can pass between different operations. I know I'm speaking on livestock, but we can do it across the board and keep those generations in those rural communities, but also expand their experience and knowledge across all facets, which eventually, you mentioned my big idea. Eventually that even resonates with consumers, that we are working together to be more efficient, more productive, and have the consumers well-being in mind, and that just gives us a bigger voice that we can express and show examples of moving forward.
Yes. So particularly, you're exactly right. Many of our programs, so our Ag-Ready County designation, for instance, we have a very circular goal. One is to build agricultural literacy and awareness at an early age so people understand the food production, fuel and fiber production that goes on around them. Then to begin building skill sets that can be used in the workforce later on. And then to encourage entrepreneurs and support entrepreneurs with a toolkit that makes them successful at home. A lot of us have really deep roots, and you're exactly right. You are an example of that. We have both spent our time in Central Missouri working for agricultural organizations, but both wanted to get back to where our roots were really deep, right, into those multi-generation operations. And so particularly, I see younger individuals who want to stay rooted at home, far more open to a freelance or a gig economy than we may have been in the past, right? So they can creatively, adaptively make those kind of things work. And I can't see the full profiles and I don't know everybody on AgButler, but as I scan through the laborers available in my area, that's exactly what I see. Some individuals who are really trying to make it work at home, who have a deep breadth of experience, and really just looking for a place to utilize that here in our sparsely populated rural communities.
And that's the other big thing of, trying to bring value back into those rural communities. I mean, your community is a great case study as far as there's a whole lot of agriculture and the population is small. And so you might have to travel a little bit more than what you'd want, but we've always talked about this selling point of, we all know most of the people within 5 to 10 miles radius of our operation, but if you expand that out to 30 miles, which most people now are pretty open to traveling to a location to perform a service or a job, especially in agriculture, because that doesn't seem as far as it did 20, 30 years ago. And so you have this whole community that is even more evolved with what their potential is, and increasing that efficiency and production. And as we build on that, you talk about their experience, even the bigger spectrum of what we want to do with AgButler is expanded into availabilities for people that maybe grew up on an operation but have been away but want to kind of get back into it on the weekends. I mean, a lot of people have rethought their career choices after this last year. And so if we working on building partnerships with ag organizations, associations, tech schools, and universities, to where we could provide a platform to where they can relearn some new task, and then that way it validates them to kind of relearn how to operate certain machinery or what the new practices are. So the training time on the job is greatly reduced, and kind of restarts their knowledge of what they learned in the past. And so we want to make it to where there's a whole educational element to it, and expand that out with other partnerships outside of agriculture and more into education and certain rural groups and associations.
Yes. As you were talking, I can think about 5 colleagues or professionals that I know that in the last year have taken stock of where they are in life, have rural roots, probably will inherit the farm at some point in time, know that they will have involvement in the coming years as parents age, and that would be a perfect fit for them. That would allow them to feed that passion that they got started when they were 7 out there like Harper sorting cattle, and the fond memories they have of show barns and work and everything else, and still allow them to keep their current professional focus to some degree, right, as they're making those transitions in life. So I think you've got a great vision going there. So stepping back a little bit, you've mentioned this was a 3.5-year process. There Missouri agriculture celebrates AgButler because you've had a lot of partners in the development of this. Can you just talk about, I probably saw AgButler first come to awareness through Missouri Farm Bureau contests and others, but tell us a little bit about the key milestones from big idea that you had in the tractor to what it took to launch this last summer and fall.
Well, I don't know if we have enough time to go down the yellow brick road, but we're still winding and curving through that. But yeah, so we started out, started the idea in the tractor, and Jamie, my wife, is not going to like when I say this, but she always kind of tries to keep me in check on my big ideas. And that night really said, "Hey, got this idea. What do you think about it?" And she kind of took a back step and was like, "I don't know." And so I go, "How about this? How about we talk with some of our friends and family in the industry?" And so we got in touch with National Center for Beef Excellence and started working with them as far as their kind of upstart of trying to be a ag incubator accelerator of some sort. And so we basically put together a questionnaire that we thought would be very validated points to see if we need to move forward. And so we sent that out to about 250 people, not just in Missouri, but in other areas that we were connected with across all facets of the industry. And the results were very, I wouldn't say surprising, but got us excited that people spending a lot of money on part-time labor. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier with your No5 people, the top deal that they would use is because of reliable and trustworthy laborers. And so with us validating that, and so the idea side of it kind of progressed after that. And then we started kind of getting serious about it, and then moved into the making it real and making us an LLC back in 2018. And so we initially, we made an application for the Farm Bureau Ag Innovation Challenge that year. I was a little over anxious and dove off into some of those competitions that we were way too early on. And so it was a good learning experience to know how those processes and applications happen. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board and then looked at, with the help of NCBE, apply to the MASVDA grant. And that as well was a little bit too early, and we needed to fine tune some things. And so we reapplied the fall of 2019. And really that's where we picked up a lot of speed, was fall of 2019 through now. But in between that time, what we were doing was selling before we built, and made people aware of what we were working on and what our plan was for it. So we were able to kind of lay the foundation with a lot of the ag groups and associations within Missouri, what we're doing, because we wanted to provide a tool or a solution to those members. And so really push forward ahead on that and built that foundation network that we could replicate in other states. And so then, 2019 began the windfall of getting recognized with American Farm Bureau Ag Innovation Challenge, and then Farm Credit Services America Ag Tech Challenge, and then what rolled into our value-added grant with MASVDA. And so we hit the ground running in the start of 2020. And then at the beginning of 2020, we switched from an LLC to a C Corp, because with a lot of our advisors said, it's probably time to switch, because once you get out there, it's going to be better for investment to come in as a C Corp. And so we switched to that. And then 2020 was a whirlwind, because we had the whole idea of going to all these conventions and meetings and talking to people as we're building out the technology and have people look at it and show it in hand, and all that switched to virtual. And like I said, the silver line was our developer group was able to fast track because some of their projects got delayed. And so we were able to look at launching in August. And the whole goal was to launch at Missouri State Fair, because that's where the team grew up. And, you know, the state fair was always known for the new and upcoming equipment, genetics, everything like that. And it was like, well, that seems like the best place to drop this in. And of course, that got switched around the last minute and focused more on the kids. And so we just held back and waited until the week after the fair to push out our announcement. And so right now, the first part of 21, we really ramped up our marketing and advertising campaigns throughout most of the Midwest to get even more promotion out there.
Yes, I think it's a good point to say this isn't just a Missouri based. While Missouri Agriculture celebrates AgButler, this is bigger than Missouri Ag, right? This is beyond just our borders. And when I talked to some forestry leaders this week, they said it is not an issue of supply or even demand. We would not consider an expansion of our 200-person business because we couldn't begin to staff an expanded location. And so that's a bigger labor issue within agriculture, right? And it's not just a labor issue within agriculture. That's a bigger labor issue. But they also said we have 6 contract workers, and man, if we could replace those contract workers, or if we could know that logging crews could be fully staffed, that would sure help us know input of. And so AgButler is a component of a big conversation here, and one that I think serves our individual operations very well. So right now, on our operation day, we're out hauling hay. Somebody to load or unload at one end or the other, for instance, in this winter weather, is the perfect example of we could use some additional labor today or in the next day. So there is a lot of opportunity there, and hats off to not only your guys' vision, but all those partners I know have been instrumental. And can you just walk me through a little bit? So we've talked a lot about the concept. You not only accept laborers and ask for their skill sets and locations and kind of how far they're willing to travel, right? But also those that are looking for work. This isn't just for those looking for work, but also those who are looking to hire both have platforms on AgButler. Is that right?
Yeah, so for both the employer and labor side, it is free to download the app and to build a profile. And really the only cost that is associated with any of the users on our platform is on the employer side whenever they make a connection with a labor on our platform. So if I'm an employer looking to hire somebody and I hire you to help sort cows, I would incur a flat connection fee to make that connection. And then once the job is done, then the employer and labor handle that payment transaction. But the neat thing is we've set it up to where when the job is posted and as you're looking through laborers, each party can see what range or price people are looking at. So it's not that awkward conversation once the job's done. So whatever you think is right, no, I'm going to pay you type of thing. So we've kind of got all that awkwardness out of the situation. And, down a few years down the road, we might look at it to where laborers can have like their own account in there. So it's a straight pay through, but we didn't want to put a whole lot of bells and whistles into this initial product. We wanted it to be pretty straightforward and pretty basic to make sure that people liked the way it looked. So we didn't have to tear it all back down and restart. And so, but in that same breath, we also relied on a lot of producers and people that signed up early as beta testers to validate what we were building was something that was easy to use and straightforward to where we could push forward, and that really helped out. And so those profiles are easy to build. We don't ask for a lot of pertinent information. It's just, name, number, email, and your location, and that way people can find you.
I know a flat connection fee is exactly as you said, would be a lot easier than texting every teenager I know to ask if they would be available next Tuesday and hope that works. So I can see where the value would be for the employer on that side. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about this, but tell me a little bit about, as you launched this venture, what needs did you see that Missouri could build out to help support entrepreneurs and others that are looking to move down a road similar to this, or looking to launch their next big idea?
Well, we had some great advisors that kind of gave us some avenues to look at and to check things out. But there's also a pretty big gap from people that are looking to invest into ideas and products such as ours or anything else in ag tech. And that is, that initial money to get it up and running to where it's scalable and shows revenue for that next step for people to invest in. And, I've been lucky enough to be a part of a group that we competed in back in October. It was the Pure Pitch Rally, and we were the only ag company of 8 in Kansas City, and kind of open. We got a lot of great support from them and still get great support. And so it's a whole nother environment again that we're introduced to. Then we can talk about agriculture and the importance of it. But with that, they've always said, we really need to, push ahead forward what you're trying to do. But a lot of that investment doesn't come from people that, like people in agriculture, realize whenever you change or put a new tool into your operation, you have to make sure it works and gives you your return on investment before you go full in. And so people in ag realize it takes some time to see some results, whereas people outside of agriculture really, they're pretty antsy and want to get a return on investment sooner. So I think if there's some of that gelling in between, we can look at helping more of this new innovation in Missouri and be the flagship state that we're known for, the animal health corridor and the plant science corridor. And why can't we be, also the innovation corridor? Because we have a diverse agriculture environment across the state, and we can, utilize a lot of this new tech to really even, recruit new technologies into Missouri, and producers and alike can benefit from that.
I think that from the claypan soils of North Missouri to the rocks of the Ozarks, the fact that we deal with those on a regular basis, we are innovators in Missouri. The Show Me State is full of innovation because we find success eking our livelihood out of situations like that. So I think that I would love for Missouri to be added to the list of one of our assets, in addition to our beef herd and the diversity that we have in our agriculture, from rice and cotton to corn and soybeans to poultry and turkeys. I would love for it to be ag tech and innovation. So we are behind you 100%. So to close out our conversation, where do people find AgButler? What's the easiest way?
Well, before I close out, so I don't leave anybody out. I mean, there are some great accelerators and incubators that focus on agriculture. So I want to make that known that they're out there and ready to go. And some of those need more validation from ideas to products before you can move into those. So I'm not saying that there's not those resources at all. But it goes back to that initial start to where those ideas and products can get validated on a lower scale to be accepted into those other groups. So having said that, you can find AgButler on our website is agbutlerapp.org, and that's 2 P's. We're on all social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we launched a YouTube page to where we can facilitate some of that learning part of it, and some promotional videos. And our handle is at AgButlerApp. And so you can always, and we're also on LinkedIn. We just started a LinkedIn page. Most of our team has a LinkedIn page as well. So feel free to contact us any which way. If you have ideas or needs in certain areas of the state, we'll try to help you out as much as possible.
Perfect. Well, as COVID has given us all pause and time for reflection on what our operations look like. Thanks for paving a way for this new venture idea and this new idea. I think a lot of us have seen opportunities in a post-COVID world on better connection, not only with consumers around us, but the first thing we'll all need to expand our enterprise ideas is labor. And this is a great way to do that. So thank you for that. Thank you for joining us today. It is always a thought-provoking conversation to talk to you. And so we appreciate the time. Encourage everybody to look for the AgButler app and just appreciate everyone who joins in, listens to Stand for Ag. We will continue our entrepreneurship conversations with some additional tools and some great stories of ag innovation and success across the state.
Thank you for joining the Stand for Ag podcast with Missouri Farmers Care. We're excited to bring you new stories each week. We as agriculturalists have a lot of stories to tell. Stories of resilience, grit, and stories of families that are united by their passion for agriculture. Each week, tune in for a new episode and join the conversation.